All right. So, ideas are weak. They need to be protected. The internet, which briefly was a hospitable place, has become capricious and hostile. If an idea is going to survive in such a disagreeable environment, it needs a form of armored transport. Specifically, it needs a powerful vessel which can ferry it from your mind to that of a wider audience. Now, there are many different types of idea vessels. Some are small, tweet-like contraptions, which generally haul simple or fleeting ideas. And other vessels are large, film-like containers, which work best for robust statements or hypotheses. Now, it's very important that a vessel's magnitude is appropriately chosen based on the substance and shape of the idea. Now, matching an idea with the right vessel is almost as important as the idea itself. Now, all vessels, regardless of size, need to be built. The choice, construction of such vessels is the focus of this talk today. Now, originally, I was actually hoping to give a talk about process. I had written a video that I actually was hoping to... I'm so sorry. Hold on. I thought I'd turn... Just give me 1 second. I'm sorry.
Hello.
Dude, what are you doing? This is not what we planned at all.
What do you mean? Did I call at the wrong time? I thought I could have sworn...
Look, the plan was I would call you when I got to the end of the talk.
No, I just read our notes. It said, after the intro, past Alex, we'll call future Alex you when you're on stage using FaceTime machine. And that's right now, so that's what I called.
Right, but 1 week later, I'm pulling it up right now. I changed that. I wrote current Alex. We'll call past Alex you during the finale of the talk at the end.
But if you changed it 1 week later from when I am now, then it's never going to happen that way, given that I already called you already right now.
That's right.
Like, I branched us, right? Like, or me, and you also. Anyway, I'm really sorry. Why was I supposed to call in the first place?
Well, it was supposed to be the finale. As far as I know, the idea was to interview you when the lookout video falls through, like something about how it's okay to fail and you know that kind of thing. It's okay to fail.
Oh man. Wait, the lookout video falls through? I thought that was like the whole point of the talk, right?
Yeah, it is. It was supposed to be the whole point. That's right.
Okay, so as far as you know, you never like called yourself in the future. Like the you on stage in your past never called another you in the future.
No. I remember writing that you, me in the past, would call me after we were unable to finish the video in time. That was the whole point.
Man, this is pretty weird, I gotta say.
Yeah,
this is pretty weird. I mean, if I branched us, and my path to you is theoretically different now, right? Like, I might still be able to pull the video off, at least here, like for me. And I guess what I mean is, if I'm able to complete it, then you don't need to end with the cliched failure stuff. Like, you could just call me back, right?
Yeah.
When I'm done and show the final video that way. I mean, and the rest of your talk can be the same idea vessels and all that, but for the end, just call me back, right?
Yeah, that could work. So I'll give the same talk that I was planning to give, one about idea vessels and that kind of thing. I'll lose my ending, assuming you're able to finish the video, and then I'll call you back along the way.
I mean, I'm still not super sure what's going on. I think that this FaceTime machine thing is kind of a little screwy maybe, but give me a call back, and I'm just going to go try to finish the video. I'll talk to you soon.
Cool. All right. I'm sorry about that. I actually did plan for that to happen, and it was supposed to be a surprise. That was on purpose, but it was meant to happen at the end. You see, for this talk, my plan was to create a new project and essentially document every stage of the process as it happened. I'll pull some of that stuff up now. That project was for a video called Lookout, and unfortunately, I never finished the video. It turned out to be a lot harder than I thought to make the video and simultaneously document every phase just for the purposes of this talk. I've got a bunch of the prep work on screen now. You can see my notes, some loose scripts, and this is basically like as far as I got. I'd assembled all this prep material, but I couldn't finish it and then also write the talk about it at the same time. So I prepared a completely different talk instead, which is what I was planning to do about idea vessels. And maybe I'll just check in with Alex, with myself along the way to make sure whether or not I can end with the finished video or not. But for now, I'll just give the talk I was planning to give about idea vessels. So I think the easiest way to understand this is to first walk through some examples of different ideas. I'll list out some ideas that in their current state are too raw and unsubstantiated to be able to survive on their own. They're interesting ideas, but without the right battle dressing, they would not get beyond the minds of the one or two people that are discussing them. So like we look down at our phones too much on the bottom. That's a good example of an idea that in its current form is ill-equipped to further the public conversation in a meaningful way. It may be true, but it's not yet interesting. So if we take another example from the board, interaction design. I am an interaction designer, and during my time at Facebook, I would constantly need to present my design ideas both in person and asynchronously. The most basic visual way to present a design idea is the static mock, and depending on the complexity of your experience, sometimes that is sufficient. However, interactions are rarely static, right? So it's usually better to present a potential design in prototype form, where states and transitions are much clearer as they are here. Now, at this point, the idea is richly expressed and it's ready to be evaluated. But this is really still a primitive vessel. It's one that requires me to be present to be properly conveyed. As soon as it makes its way beyond my reach and is shown to a product director over the weekend, the framing context is lost and the idea will die, regardless of how good the prototype was. So if we're preparing this idea to travel around an organization, we must also consider Keynote, which is excellent for telling linear narratives and framing simple concepts. And there's also video, which starts to bolster the idea's ability to emotionally connect with people. It looks real, and that helps people assume that it is real, even if it's just a prototype. And then on the extreme end of this spectrum is the promo video, which can portray a hypothetical reality which imagines that your idea already exists. Now, I used to do this a lot at Facebook, as you can see on the screen. This one was in fact so realistic that I got a frantic email from the legal team reprimanding me for launching a product without telling them. And of course, the idea didn't actually exist, but its vessel was so substantial that most people assume that it did. And that assumption results in attention. And often that's all we can hope for. And that's also true of this next example, which I'll just play a little bit of this one quickly. People also thought that this was real.
With Gopher, drones on demand are the future. Using our mobile app, you can task a drone to provide you a multitude of services, either from a list of presets or using voice commands. For example, why settle for mediocre selfies when you can have a drone take HD photos and videos of your adventures? Gopher drones can go anywhere, so if you're traveling and want to scout a new city ahead of time, it's easy to send a local drone to check the live feed. Our object-based tracking system allows you to explore anything the drone comes in contact with. For example, a restaurant where Gopher can pull up wait times or even link with social networks to see if anyone is there that you know. On select objects, audio monitoring can be assigned, allowing for quick and easy telepresence. Of course, the drones can also be used for safety and are a great way to augment a home security system. Or if you're walking in an unsafe neighborhood, why not have a drone follow you and find the least risky way back? If you're driving, think of Gopher as your eyes in the sky, giving you the information you need from speed traps to parking spots. Gopher is the future of consumer drone technology. Our initial release is limited to 5 cities in the United States. Sign up today at gopherdrones.com.
Okay, I'm going to take a quick pause, if you don't mind, give myself a ring. I just want to make sure that he's still on track filming that video. So let's take a quick look and see.
Hello.
Yo, man.
Sorry.
How is everything going back then?
Yes, good. I was just actually starting to write a basic script for the video.
Cool. Hey, look, I realized I never even explained what that video was supposed to be about. Can you catch everyone up on it? And I'll pull up some stuff while you do that.
Yeah, totally. So I guess the basic idea that's being transported here is we look down at our phones too much. And, you know, that idea has been beat to death in the news, on Twitter, and magazines. So I think, like, to even be able to participate in that conversation in a meaningful way, we need a unique vessel. So in this case, that's going to be a hypothetical app, a video for a hypothetical app, where using new technology, a new lens on the camera can stream whatever's directly in front of you to the top of your phone. So you never need to look up.
I'm pulling some of that stuff up now. It's very dystopian.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the key is that we don't wink, right, and make it obviously satire. I think I'm writing the script now, and the hope is to basically stay right on the line between the obviously insane and somewhat plausible. Like I just wrote this line, for example. You hear people say, we look down at our phones too much. What if the problem is not that we're all looking down? What if the problem is that we ever have to look up at all? So obviously facetious, right? But said in earnest with the right visuals, hopefully it's not going to seem that crazy.
Right on, man. Sounds like you're on track. I will call you back later and check in.
Sounds good, dude. Yeah, I'll get back to it. I hope the talk's going well. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, see ya. Okay, so that's good. If he's writing the script now, it's not going to be long before he starts shooting. So that's a good thing. I'm going to get back to idea vessels. Not everything falls along a visual spectrum. Other mediums can be just as effective. So in 2011, I co-founded a company called Uber Conference, and our mission was to make the conference call, typically an annoying and tedious affair, into a delightful experience. Every aspect of the conference call was reimagined, including the hold music, which if you've ever been on a conference call, you know typically sounds like you're on an elevator going to the dentist. Hold music instead could help us convey this idea of delightful surprise, something we wanted to reinforce again and again in the product. So for our hold music, I wrote a song about being on hold, which I'd love to play it for you, but I don't have it. There's another way, if you give me just a second. 1 second. Let me just unplug something and see if this works. Okay. There we go.
Oh, hey, man.
Cool. Yo.
Yeah, I was just setting up the FaceTime machine camera, which I think looks pretty good for a webcam. What's going on with you?
It does look pretty good for a webcam. Hey, I wanted to play the Uber Conference hold music. If you have a guitar, I'll sing it. Maybe you can just back me up. One verse. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, hey, look, I have my guitar right here.
Nice.
Yeah, and if you want to sing on stage, I'm happy to back you up.
All right. So this is the hold music.
Let's give it a go.
Uber Conference. One verse of it anyway. Well, I've been sitting here all day. I've been sitting in this waiting room. And I've been waiting on my friends. Yes, I'm waiting on this conference call. All alone. And I'm on hold. Yes, I'm on hold. I hope it's not all day. Nice, dude.
Nice, man.
Thank you.
Sounded good. Hey, I got to get back to this video. This thing is not going to finish itself. I hope the talk is going well. I am like 75% of the way there. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, cool. All right, moving on. I want to expand on the type of vessel that can be leveraged. We've looked at imagery, video, and even music, but one of my favorite ways to communicate is actually simpler than all of that, and that is metaphor. The reason I like metaphor is because language on its own is so limited. A good metaphor allows us to circumvent the boundaries of language and tap into shared experience, which in turn leads to deeper understanding. So one of the ideas that was on the board before was how similar product development can feel to the movie Apollo 13. Indeed, an overly dramatic comparison, but when parts of the film are juxtaposed against different stages of building a product, I found that members of my team and I at Facebook could all share a collective understanding. Now, this could easily have been a written post, probably even a tweet, but I found that this format was the most effective vessel. And here's a brief excerpt of that now.
The crew would have to hit a target no thicker than this piece of paper.
Toxic. Well, I suggest you gentlemen invent a way to put a square peg in a round hole. Rapidly.
Okay, people, listen up. People upstairs handed us this one, and we gotta come through. We gotta find a way to make this fit into the hole for this, using nothing but that. Let's get it organized.
Okay, let's build a filter.
Better get some coffee going, too, someone.
Oh, listen up, gentlemen. I want you all to forget the flight plan. From this moment on, we are improvising a new mission.
come on.
We'll-
Sorry.
We'll get somebody to look at that.
Gotta get a bulb around here.
How do we get our people home? They are here. We turn them around, straight back,
Yes.
direct abort.
No, sir. We get them on a free return trajectory. It's the option with the fewest question marks for safety.
I agree with Jerry. Use the moon's gravity, slingshot them around.
No, the LEM will not support 3 guys for that amount of time.
It barely holds
I mean,
two.
we have got to do a direct abort. We do an about face, we bring the guys right home right now.
Get them back soon, absolutely.
We don't even know if the Odyssey's engine's even working, and if there's been serious damage to this spacecraft.
They blow up and they die.
That is not the argument. We are talking about time, not whether or not these guys are.
I'm not going to sugarcoat this for you. Hey, hold it. Let's hold it down. Let's hold it down, people.
Okay, so before I get any further, I do want to check in with myself at least one more time. He should be shooting by now, so let's just take a look and see if he's out in the field shooting yet. Oh, 1 sec. Okay.
What's up, man?
Hey, man, how's it going back then?
Yeah, just out here filming. You can see the rig right here. I've been using these funky clay prototypes. I don't know if you can see that. It looks really janky if you get up close. Yeah, it's like really weird. But I've been filming far enough away that hopefully you won't be able to tell in the final shots, I hope. And it's going to be paired with a 3D rendering, which I'm pretty sure you've got the file for those. So if you want to pull that up, you could do that now.
I do. What about the prototype? Did you end up doing one of those as well?
Yeah, the prototype. So since we're doing all this over-the-shoulder stuff in hand, like with an actual phone, I needed to build an app that was able to do a few things. First, it needed to be able to record video in a location, so like one like this. Then it needed to be able to play back that video at the top of the screen above like 4 or 5 different use cases like email, text, and stocks. And it needed to be able to do that on cue. So you need to build a whole system for that. And actually, I think you've got the file for this too, if you want to pull that up and show the prototype. But yeah, anyway, I got to go. I have a cold. The video is due in like a week. I am pretty sure I'm not going to be able to finish it. I see what you were talking about. But yeah, I hope things are going well on stage. I'm going to let you get back to your talk, man. See ya.
Crazy. I also have a cold. That's very strange. Anyway, that's about as far as I got. I finished building the prototype last week, but I only got a couple test shots, which I'll show you. And the prototype itself is built in origami. It's a set of toggles that I can manipulate in the field. And the idea is to be able to get a lot of different shots quickly. Since the prototype can record video, it ensures that the overlay video at the top will always match the establishing shot surroundings. And normally I try to avoid using green screen because I prefer the way things shot practically look like this. But I do imagine he will also probably get some green screen shots just in case, like this one. Anyway, these are all just tests. It's not the real video. I didn't have time to do that. I gave up. We'll see if he's able to do that in time. I hope he is. Okay, so something I've been interested in is how the vessel itself can be as interesting as the idea. And this is a delicate balance, but it's especially important at Facebook where there is no shortage of ideas being passed around the organization. And for anyone that's worked at a big company, you know how hard it can be to be heard. So one method I experimented with to be heard was to place my ideas into massively and increasingly absurd containers that even without their idea cargo would be noticeable from a distance. Now on screen are some examples. My favorite involved 2 simple glyphs. Now for context, the Facebook app used to use the down chevron, the upside down triangle, as the affordance for the overflow menu. Tapping on it would present an action sheet of options. To me, this was crazy. The down chevron is a directional indicator similar to a back chevron that should be used to convey when something is going to move down or be minimized. The proper glyph, in my mind, for more was the 3 dot, which literally symbolizes the concept of more if you think of like the ellipses. So I felt very strongly about this, and to insert this idea into the organization, I started with a debate because there are good arguments on both sides. I moderated a debate between personified versions of each glyph, each portrayed by myself live. And to do it live, I had to use 3 cameras, which allowed me to cut between each angle as though there were 3 people in the room. I had to mirror each of the side cameras, which made it such that when the central me, the only actual me, turned to his left, I could cut to the me on the left, and it looked like that version of me was turning to his right, live. So you see, the vessel is substantially more complicated than the idea. And that is what allowed it to spread, because otherwise this is a fairly boring topic. The idea did gain traction, but change was somewhat slow to come. Tests were run, but the default global experience persisted with the chevron. So months later, a new vessel was launched, this time a faux news broadcast, also broadcast live, which portrayed dire circumstances for 3 Dot. Everyone was very sad about this.
Welcome tonight to Facebook News Now. We have a late breaking story this evening. 3 Dot, the very popular interface element, was incapacitated late last evening as the result of some accident. We are not aware at this time of the circumstances of that accident. No foul play is suspected. However, this does come at a very turbulent time for 3 Dot, in particular given its relationship with Chevron, another very popular glyph which has maintained a surprising reign over the Facebook interface far longer than many experts suspected. This comes actually not that long after a very contentious debate, a very, in fact, turbulent time again in their history.
The reason all of these videos were filmed live was to increase the stakes. The perceived weight of the message was much greater than if the video had been pre-recorded. Having them unfold live made them seem urgent, made me seem crazy, and then ultimately made it impossible for them not to be noticed. So as a happy aside, Facebook today uses 3 Dot globally as their glyph for more. I would never assume to have had any influence on that decision, but all 5 versions of me are very happy that that decision was made. So probably one of the most frequent vessels that I construct, like many of you, is one for my travel memories. The most common vessel for such imagery is Instagram. Well-edited photos of places like Iceland and Morocco are very much at home on an intentionally arranged Instagram profile. The trouble with such a vessel is that it's become exhausted. It's been used over and over again to transport homogeneous cargo. Photos like these need only be witnessed a few times before their potency is unfortunately depleted. The vessel, Instagram, can only do so much, and it's not long before new forms of transport are desired. So after a recent trip to Iceland, I wanted to share my travel experiences with the world. However, I was worried that photography would get lost in the sea of similar imagery. So too many of the same vessel transporting the same cargo. Instead, I constructed an experimental vessel and a video which was framed as the distant memories of an old man who had been part of a landing team on a foreign planet. Now, just because it was different didn't make it better, but it was this kind of reframing that can hopefully elevate content above the noise. I'll play a very quick excerpt of this one now as well.
Well, in many ways it was similar to our planet, except far weirder, far stranger, almost primordial. The land looked freshly carved off a dull blade, craters smoldering, with nearby cliffs just dripping debris. The sheer variety of the terrain was difficult to comprehend. To be honest, it seemed dangerous at first. I sure felt that way. We didn't know what had happened yet, so we had to take precautions. But there was a beauty there, a becalmed solace. We eventually learned with a little care it was safe to traverse, to explore.
And how would that usually unfold?
Well, we'd always start with flyovers, looking mostly for activity or structure sites. And once we had enough data, we'd pack up and approach on foot. The existing infrastructure was typically enough to get us close enough to do our measurements. That process would usually take weeks, and once finished, we'd relay that it was safe, as far as we knew, and then we'd wait. But it was odd, there wasn't anyone left. Isolated would be an understatement.
So let me just be clear. Sometimes a complex and absurd vessel is completely unnecessary. As I said, it's about matchmaking, the right vessel with the right idea. So to balance that one out, I want to show this photograph. This was luck. I happened to be in Antarctica on a day when this particular iceberg decided to flip over and reveal its fleetingly pure underbelly. I photographed it. Photograph is the idea. No mix of words, music, or film is going to enhance it in any way. The vessel became the internet, which can be difficult to navigate in its own right. Now, in this case, it was about recognizing when it's time to be restrained and let the imagery speak for itself. Now, as an aside, this image ended up spreading very far and wide. I got a lot of recognition for it. It was difficult though, because while I enjoyed the attention, don't get me wrong, I felt no pride in the actual image, given I had done nothing to create it other than be in the right place at the right time. It's not a particularly good photograph. Literally anyone could have taken it with an iPad. It's the content itself that's remarkable. My plan while I was down there was to shoot a video for a mirror concept, which I had thought of, which I thought would be the project that resonated with a lot of people. It was not. Very few people saw this, but for me personally, this is the thing that I actually am proud of. So I'll show this one too, just quickly. Okay, so here's where I'm not super sure what's going to happen. I was planning to finish on an example where all of this vessel choosing and whatnot can go sideways, because it often does. How a spectacular failure on my part could lead to an interesting outcome. I tried to shoot a video for Lookout, the video I mentioned, but it was too difficult to do that and write this talk at the same time. The final point was going to be not to ever let vessel construction get in the way of the actual idea itself. I did that and have no video to show you. But rather than walk you through how I failed, I guess we can find out together if the other me was able to succeed, and hopefully he was. So give him one more call, and hopefully he'll have a final video for us.
Yo, man.
Hey, man. How's it going?
I was hoping you would call.
Tell me you finished, please.
Yes, I finished.
Man, how is that even possible?
So, I think I know where you went wrong. You were trying to write the talk and execute the video at the same time, inextricably linking them. Now, I basically just don't think that's possible, right? So I focused 100% of my energy on only the video. Knowing that you were already going to give the talk, I figured I would just work on the video. That's it. That's where 100% of my attention has been over the last couple months, I guess.
Okay, that makes sense. But I mean, doesn't that mean you're going to be super screwed for your talk on your end?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm completely screwed when it comes to that. Yeah. Anyway, the video is ready. If you want to play it, it's good to go.
Yeah. Well, why don't you introduce it since you're the only one that's seen it, I guess.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so this is a promo video for Lookout. It portrays a future where your phone has a new lens that can look and see whatever is directly in front of you and then stream that to an intelligent overlay at the top of your phone. The idea being that you never need to look up. Pretty dark. I think it came out pretty good. Anyway, let's give it a go. I think if you if you just hit enter, it'll play.
This is Lookout, a new camera that looks ahead so you can keep looking down. Finally, you can see what's in front of you without ever having to look up from your phone. Lookout is enabled by a breakthrough camera system which allows the lens to tilt forward and constantly stream your immediate surroundings to an intelligent overlay at the top of your screen. A visionary awareness algorithm is what alerts the Lookout display to activate whenever your attention is split between your phone and your life, so you know you can feel free to keep your eye off the ball. At last, you can drive to work while you read the morning paper, or go sightseeing while you catch up on email. Basically, you never have to do this anymore. You hear people say that we look down at our phones too much. But what if the problem isn't that we're all looking down? What if the problem is that we ever have to look up at all? Don't look up, look out.
Yikes. That's great, dude. Nice
Thanks,
job.
Man. Yeah, I thought it came out pretty good. It was kind of crazy, though. I had to shoot everything locally. That's why I'm in all of the shots, because, I mean, there was no time to hire a crew. I think we did this in like a weekend. Yeah, pretty intense. Definitely wouldn't do that again. Anyway, I know you're finishing up, so I'll let you get back to the talk.
Cool.
If I don't see you again, have a nice life, I guess. Yeah, I guess maybe catch you on the next one.
All right, man.
See ya.
That's good. Damn. All right. I'm glad he was able to finish. After trying to do that video and this talk at the same time, I can say with certainty that it would not have been possible to do both, at least not very well. Anyway, strange vessels for ideas. That's what this talk has been about. And if it wasn't already clear, that's what this talk also is. I started speaking a few years ago, and I found myself frustrated by the standard format. I think we already ask a lot of you, the audience, to sit and listen to us for a long time. And when ideas are transferred using ordinary means, it's easy to tune out and disengage, regardless of how good the ideas are. So I've been experimenting with different constructions for a few years now, and I have to say, none of them have really been completely successful. But I have found a few amenities that I like to keep around that I think can also apply to other things as well. One is confusion. Confusion is a powerful way to keep someone engaged. If people don't understand what's going on, they're innately driven to address that confusion and will pay attention at least as long as it takes for them to do that. There's also great power in surprise schadenfreude, however you say that word, that guilty pleasure you feel witnessing someone else's misfortune. Now, I like to intentionally bring this on myself, not because I like to be embarrassed, but because I want you to pay attention. So in conclusion, this has been a very complex way of expressing a very simple idea, but that was the whole point. Thank you very much. And I think, thank you. I ended a small touch early. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them if so. I can't see anything though, so. Yeah, so a long time ago, I learned that I got really stressed out if I have to click and talk at the same time. So I also, if I do that, will end up talking a lot more than I'm meant to. So everything is always one long video, so I know exactly how long it is, and I know exactly what's going to happen at every moment. So I hit play, I'm watching just like you guys. Much less stressful that way. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, the question was for the Mir Antarctica video, did I already have the concept or did it dawn on me during the process? I had the idea beforehand, and you kind of have to, because to do that, the way that shot is you shoot one camera forward over a long period of time, so a lot of things happen in front of the camera, people moving around, and then also the base layer. So you mirror, when there's nothing happening, you mirror the base layer, so it's just an image, basically. And then if you've just horizontally flipped half the image and you play back a part where there's a person at one moment in time, but then the other side's the other time, it won't be a perfect mirror, only the background will be. And to have that, you would need to have known that ahead of time, because you wouldn't be able to do that unless you'd, like, for some reason, been shooting a lot of stationary footage, you know? So yeah, I had that idea ahead of time, and I thought it was genius. I was like, this is going to be the best project ever. Everyone's going to love it. And, like, literally no one cared about that video. The only people that see it are the people who come to see the talks. Yeah. Yeah. So the question is, the lookout video that I played at the end, could that itself be used as a teaching tool to help generate discussion around those kinds of issues? I think ultimately that is what it's meant to do. Obviously, I don't believe that that should exist. Hopefully, obviously. I put it on Reddit where nothing's ever obvious, and people were like, this is crazy. This guy's an idiot, you know. Which is actually like kind of the point, you know, like when something that crazy seems real to some people, that's sort of I think the balance a good satire strikes is that some people are confused enough to think it's real. Unfortunately, for those people, like the reality is such that that something like that crazy actually doesn't seem that crazy, even though it should. So yeah, it is meant to spark discussion, I think, hopefully. The new company that we have now is very focused on like not looking down at your phone so much, and so unfortunately we're not ready to announce yet, but like a lot of that noise that we're making is on purpose to kind of like generate those discussions. Yep. Yeah, the question is, when I have an idea now, do I kind of first go to thinking about what vessel is going to transport it? I think, like to my own detriment, sometimes I think more about the vessel than the idea itself. But I've just seen so often, I think at Facebook in particular, like, I don't know how many of you work or have worked at a big company, but at a place like that, it's very difficult to convince people of almost anything because everyone's using the same tool, which is just the written word or email or meetings and that kind of thing. And when that's all you have, like, one, you do become a really good writer, but then two, everyone's fighting with the same tools, and it's just hard. And so it was very obvious very quickly, like if I just use a different, literally any other vessel, it could be anything, you know, like photography, it could be, I used to do a lot of like scientific documentation of our micro kitchens, like literally anything, and people would notice. And I think even somewhat less good ideas would get much more traction just because they were prepared much more in a considered way, if that makes sense. There was one there, yeah. Mm-hmm. Good question. Yeah, the question is, was I going? Oh, was there more? Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Great question. The question is, when I travel to a place like Iceland or Antarctica, am I on vacation? Short answer is yes. And then does the project end up overtaking the vacation? And again, the short answer is yes, which is why I don't do it anymore. But I like the Iceland one. My wife and I went on that trip together. It was just us, and the whole time. I mean, if you look at her phone, the pictures are of me like hunched over my camera, like in the wind, you know. And the idea with the video was like, hey, this will be a much more fun way for us to remember our trip together. And I think that was true for half of us, you know. So I don't do it anymore at all, actually. And it's kind of sad because now I don't even bring a camera anymore. I used to, I don't know if my backpack's up here, but I used to travel around with like a giant backpack everywhere I went. Everywhere I went, I had 6 lenses, and I would just, you know, I think the only thing I miss one thing, and that is a zoom lens, like a deep 200 millimeter, that perspective when traveling, like nothing, like an iPhone, whatever it is, nothing can touch that, you know. And I think like when you use a zoom lens when you're traveling, people are like, oh my God, these photos are incredible. And it's just people aren't used to seeing that compressed image. Everyone's used to like the iPhone frame. So like that's the one thing I miss. I think if I was going to bring anything anymore, it'd be like literally just a zoom. That makes sense. Yes, one in the very back there. The question is, are there any vessels I'm experimenting with or new mediums? No, actually. I think I found that video is currently still what I think the most effective way to spread like an idea like that. So I released that video actually this morning. It's part of this, I guess. And I put it on Twitter, and I think it has like 10,000 views before I even got up on stage. And this is an interesting thing. So I put it on YouTube and I put it on Twitter. YouTube video, 100 views. Twitter video, 10,000 views. That's not, they're both put out on Twitter, but the Twitter algorithm just treats native video content completely differently. And so like the way the distribution systems are even constructed now, if you put native media onto a platform like that, like it's just going to spread so much faster. And it's kind of sad actually that that's the way it is, but that's the way it is. So that's still the medium that I traffic in, I guess. And there's one right there, yeah. Is the non-specific title of this talk part of this talk? No, to be honest, I told you, I don't think Sean's in here anymore, but I was telling him I was originally scheduled to do this talk last year when it had a different title. Part of the talk I put on the screen, and then I had to cancel for personal reasons, and then ended up writing, like literally almost everything I said in there is true. Like trying to write them both at the same time, that was way harder than I thought it was going to be. It was almost a catastrophe. It was like one was going to be finished. And the only reason this is 35 minutes, not 45 minutes, is because it was like almost not possible to do both, you know. So the non-specific title, I think I honestly didn't know if it was going to be possible. So I'll write a different title next time. Yeah. The question is, when I create a vessel like this talk, do I work with a scriptwriter? That would be a great idea. I had never thought of that. But no, I like to write it myself. I really like writing a lot, actually. I think even though earlier I said at Facebook it was something that everybody's doing, so it's hard to work with, I found that like if you can get really good at writing, not to say that I am good, but if you put a lot of time and work into it, it's amazing how much more effective you can be at a company like that or just on the outside. I never thought about working with somebody who does it professionally, but that's probably my favorite part. Almost everything, the process that was on screen was almost all words, and that's just because that's the way my process goes. I just write, and then eventually the execution takes very little time after that, you know? Yeah. Sorry. Like by quoting the way the ideas are presented as a vessel. Yeah. Yeah. Does that suggest you're actually like criticizing that you're paying more attention to the way the ideas are presented to the ideas? And the second question is, yeah. Would you ever consider being a YouTuber as your I'll do them backwards. The second question was, would I ever consider being a YouTuber? I've actually been on YouTube since like 2007 or whenever it came out. I used to do music on YouTube, and in the beginning was very successful with it. It was great. It was like my favorite thing to do ever. And then they made one very specific change, which if you look on YouTube, you can find people talking about. Basically, when the default view was no longer subscriptions, it was home recommendations. Many channels died that day, including my own. It was like completely crazy. You know, if one day you have 20,000 subscribers, you put out a video, you'll get like 15,000 views pretty reliably. The next day, suddenly you're getting 115, and you're like, what the hell happened? You know. And so when that happened, I was like, screw this. Like I'm not doing this anymore. So I would never do that again. And the first question was about the word, even the word vessel, does that imply in some way that there's more thought into the vessel itself and pose the idea? Yeah, that's absolutely the danger. I mean, I think about that all the time. In some cases, it's very simple, like that Lookout video. I mean, you could probably find 1 million articles about the exact same thing. Nobody needs another article. Video is a very easy thing to use, I think, for something like that. When I think about like this talk, I think of this as an experiment. I honestly just don't like giving the type of like talks that I used to give, where I would like have an idea and then I would like slide. I get stuck in those. I prefer this kind of like weirder balance. It's more fun for me this way. But I do think about it a lot, where I'm like, man, sometimes I wish I had more time to talk about some of these projects, because I think it maybe even be more interesting, you know. So always experimenting in different ways. 0 minutes. Okay. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.